Good morning, everyone. So today we are going to be working on simple interest. And simple interest is really important in my opinion because it's something we all are going to have to deal with in our life. So there are two types of interest that we use. Normally we have interest when we need to borrow money. Now you could borrow money in a couple different ways, but most of the ways that what you do is you're going to get something like a car or a house, or maybe even you want just like a PlayStation that's $400 and you can't afford it. So you're going to be having to get the thing. So what you do is you borrow money, you get the item, but you have to pay it back. And you normally pay it back over months for so many years. Houses are normally 30 years. Cars are normally 5 years. Some people do it for 6, depending on what their budget is. So when you're borrowing money and you're paying an interest, that means the item is actually going to cost more money than what it really costs. So if an item is $500, but you're paying 3% interest, over the life of your loan, over the life of you paying for it, you'll actually be paying more than $500. But if you think about it, if you had to save up to buy a car or to buy a house, you might have to wait 30, 40, 50 years. So it would be hard to save that money. So it's okay to pay a little bit more so you can have what you need early. The other way of interest is when you put money into a bank or a savings bond and you gain money on that. So what the bank is really doing, the bank is saying, hey, you give me your money. If I'm the bank, you give me your money. I'm going to pay you for you giving me your money. So it works both ways. So for simple interest, what I need you to understand is we're going to be using a formula like we've been doing all along. And the formula for simple interest is I equals PRT. I equals PRT. But Mr. Shulman, what does that mean? Well, the I is how much interest. Again, you can either be making it or losing it or earning it. So if you're making it, you're earning it. The interest is how much money you're going to make or how much more money you're going to have to pay. The P is the principal. The principal is how much money you start with. So make sure you understand the P principal is how much money you start with. The R is the rate of the interest, the percent. Don't forget, you need to write it as a decimal. Very, very important. Dr. Pepper, they give you a percent. Move it over to the left 2 times to make it as a decimal. And T is how much time are you paying the loan or saving the money in years. In years. Never. So if they give you months, you got to make a harder calculation. Probably won't give you many of those, if any, but remember T is in years. So again, the formula is I equals PRT, and the way we solve it is by plugging in our numbers by using substitution. Now, for today, I'm only going to give you problems where we'll be substituting and multiplying. Then tomorrow, we'll be working on Thursday, we'll be working on problems where maybe you have to do some algebra in it as well. So hopefully this works out well. So let's look at our first example. Our first example is you put $500 in a bank account with 5% interest for 3 years. How much interest will you make? $500, 5% interest for 3 years. So what I'm going to do to help you solve this is we're going to write out the formula. I equals PRT. I equals PRT. And we're going to look. This 500 is the money we're putting in. So that is our principal. Then the interest is 5%, but I got to write that as a decimal, don't forget. So when I move it over, it's going to be 0.05. And how much time? 3 years. So if I was to write that, I would write that as I equals 500 times the rate, which was 5%, which is 0.05 times 3. 0.05 times 3. Okay, good. I'm glad that we got that. So what I'm going to do is on a separate sheet of paper, on a separate sheet, I'm going to write I equals PRT. I equals 500 times 0.05 times 3. In your calculator, you're going to do 500 times 0.05 and write that answer down. 500 times 0.05. Now, use your calculator. I'm going to do it the old math way. And I get 25 times 3. 25 times 3. 25 times 3 is 75. And we just solved the first problem. That meant if you put $500 in the bank at a 5% interest rate, in 3 years, you're going to earn $75. You can't touch that money. You can't take it out to buy something else. You're just leaving that money in the account. So that's kind of cool. So if you know you have extra money that you don't need to spend, that's one way of earning money, by putting it into a bank. The next problem, we're going to say you want to buy a car. And we're going to use money numbers that are a little bit more reasonable. And it says you want to buy a car for $3,000 with 4% interest for 5 years. So that means what you're doing is you're buying the car for $3,000, but you're getting the car, but it's going to cost you a little bit more. So what do? We always write down the formula. I equals PRT, which means I equals P times R times T, as we learned in our video yesterday. How much was the car? $3,000. That's our principal. The interest rate was 4%, so I have to write that as a decimal, 0.04. And how many years? 5 years. So I'm going to write that as I equals 3,000 times 4%, which is 0.04, times that by 5. So to help make us some room, we're going to take a separate sheet and get a separate board, and I'm going to write the formula. I equals PRT. I equals P times R times T. I equals 3,000 times 0.04 times 5. You're then going to put that into the calculator, and I'm going to do it the long way. 3,000 times that by 0.04 is 0.00012 is 120. So if you would have just done that in your calculator, 3,000 times 0.04, you got 120. Bring that 5 times that by 5. 5 times 120 is $600, or 600. So that meant that you, even though you're buying a car for $3,000, you had to pay an interest of $600. So if I asked you, how much did that car really owe? How much did you pay for that car? You have your interest of $600, and then you have to add $3,000 to it, because that interest is, again, extra money that you have. You paid $3,000 for the car, so the car really cost you $3,600. Now, that might sound like a lot. You might be like, ooh, I'm getting ripped off. But imagine how long it would take you to save up to buy the car. Is it better to have the car now so that maybe you can drive to the grocery store or drive to work and make money, knowing it's going to cost you a little bit more? Most people think it is. Some people don't, so it depends on whatever you decide. But this is, again, simple interest. This is a way for you to understand that if you can earn more money by saving it and putting it into a bank or a bond, or when you borrow money to buy something, I want you to understand it really costs you more money. So these are 2 examples. I'm at that 10-minute mark in the video, and I know that's a long video to upload and everything, so I'm going to stop here. I might do another video to show a couple more examples to help you guys out, but we'll be working on this today and Thursday, and then if we need to, maybe we'll work on it again next week. So hope you're doing well, and I'll see you on Zoom tomorrow.